Hello, everyone, and welcome to How Your Dealership Can Take Advantage of the CFT Certification. My name is Katie Richards, and I am MHEDA's Membership and Advocacy Manager. And I am with Lisa Page, who is the Senior Advisor at the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council. Now, I know that a lot of people on the call right now know who MHEDA is, but to give you a little background of why we got involved with the CFT certification. So MHEDA is comprised of forklift dealerships, storage and handling distributors, systems integrators, as well as the OEMs with all those different categories. A common theme throughout years and years of MHEDA is the shortage of technically skilled individuals. And specifically today, we're talking about the shortage of forklift technicians and how that has affected our industry, which is a perfect tee up to why we partnered with the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council.
And good afternoon or morning for some of you. Thanks for being on our webinar today to find out more about the CFT program. Katie, thanks for that intro and tee up. For those of you who do not know who we are an employer-led nonprofit that focuses on the training and certification of highly technical foundational competencies in advanced manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics. The MSSC is national in scope. We have over 3,000 instructors across our programs at over 2,000 training and assessment sites. We're located in 49 states, the District of Columbia, and 3 international sites. And we administer 4 certification programs. Our 2 longest running and flagship programs are our Certified Production Technician, or CPT 4.0, our Certified Logistics Technician, or CLT 4.0, and our 2 newest, Supply Chain Automation, and our subject of our call today, our Certified Forklift Technician program. All of these programs that we have been developed in partnership with the employer community. They are foundational in that they are industry-wide and not sector or equipment specific. Our programs are accredited by a third party under ISO's personnel certification 17024, and that's important and significant because MSSC has to maintain the validity of the skill standards on which these programs are based. So we go back out to the employer community to talk about are the job functions still the same? Are the skills and knowledge needed to do those jobs the same? What's emerging? What is different? That keeps our programs up to date so that you know if somebody's gone through one of our programs that they have the latest and greatest when they bring that certification to you through that door. We are also endorsed by the National Association of Manufacturers. And the significance of that is, again, our programs are industry-wide. And Katie mentioned this, and one of the reasons why we partnered with MHEDA is that MHEDA was looking for an industry-wide training and certification for forklift service and repair technicians. And why not pair up with the MSSC? In addition to our expertise that working with the employer group that they could bring to the table, we have our assessment center network across the US, in which case if employers are implementing the programs themselves, they could also reach out to their local schools and their communities to work with them. So it's a perfect partnership of working together. And in October of 2019, we officially released or launched the CFT program. COVID hit, and so it's been a little bit slow to get off the ground again, but here we are, effectively relaunching it. So we're really excited to bring this to you today and give you some more details about the program elements and how it could work either at your dealership or in your local community. Do we have any questions yet, Katie? Anything?
No questions yet.
All right.
There we go. But to go into what is the CFT, Lisa, you said it exactly right. The reason that MHEDA really partnered with MSSC is for time and time again, members have said there's a shortage of forklift technicians, and how do we fill these spots? And it's more of a foundational issue that there's not a lot of awareness around forklift technician as a career path. So really starting from the schools and starting to understand um, what are schools offering and how can we equip them with something like the certification for forklift technicians so that they're putting this in front of students who are mechanically inclined. Really what needed to happen is to create a universal certification that's not necessarily brand specific, but it hits on those entry level fundamental areas that somebody would need to learn in order to start repairing and servicing a forklift. So you'll see that that's the focus, is service and repair of the forklift. And when you get a little more involved in the CFT, you'll see the different skill areas that the students or any technician is being tested on. We'll get into this a little bit later, but there is more of it. There's an online portion of the CFT, and then there's a hands-on portion of the CFT. But everything that you see on the screen, these are the key areas that somebody's learning online. So they're learning more theoretically, conceptually, how do I understand these fundamental areas? But then they're also learning about it in a hands-on way. So can I change the oil? Can I change a spark plug? All of these are really topic areas that drill down a bit deeper, whether that's online or whether that's in a hands-on way. So we'll get into more of the elements of the certification, but so you could see, these are the key areas that somebody going through the CFT will be tested on.
That's right. And when you look at those key areas in that last slide, again, when we developed the program, we talked to the employers about what are the basic fundamental things that someone needs to know, again, industry-wide, not equipment specific. What are those key areas? And then we'll get in, as Katie said, we'll get into a little bit more of the details of that in just a minute. But some of the benefits, before we get into those, of having a program like this, of course, with the MSSC, this can be made available nationwide, either through MHEDA's membership, through the dealerships that want to implement this, on site, or through our center network. Again, because we are ISO accredited, we have to keep our programs up to date. So that will always be up to date. But I think importantly, in terms of the personnel perspective, what can be seen as a benefit to your current incumbent workers, this can be used as another opportunity to upskill them, to give them additional training opportunities, and really show that you value them, in that you want to invest in their professional development. On the pipeline side, Katie mentioned that this is a great opportunity to communicate to schools, hey, there is a great career pathway here, and not a lot of students who may be in automotive repair programs or other programs may even know that this exists. And so now we have something that we can bring to the school system, whether it's the secondary system or post-secondary, where we have students to say, hey, you may want to think about this. And Katie and I, we were just in a meeting last week, weren't we, when they showed the differential for the annual salaries. It's anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 difference positively for forklift maintenance and repair technicians. And it was a really powerful slide. And I thought it was really interesting because I just don't think a lot of people know about it. And they don't really think of that in terms of their career options. They they think, on my, cars, I want to do this. And so it would be a great opportunity to start to build the pipeline if we can have programs like this in our school system.
And to your point, Lisa, I mean, the CFT, it did take a little time to get off the ground with COVID. The silver lining is that COVID has made it very obvious about the supply chain issues that are going on. And our members right now, I think, have a time or have a moment to be able to say, come to our industry. Our industry is now more in the limelight than ever. So if you are mechanically inclined and this is more of a skill area, we're trying to put that in your forefront. Now let's go into the CFT program elements. And Lisa, if you could explain a little more what somebody gets when they have the CFT certification package.
Great. Yeah. So in terms of if you were to offer the program, it really is divided or separated into two levels. The first that you see here is the online e-learning course. We've talked a little bit about that. That is a 55-hour online instructor-led course for students who are interested. Again, it goes over all the 20 plus key areas, the theoretical of, what is this when you talk about, forklift maintenance and repair. The 55 hours that's how long it takes on the online course, depending on your instructor and how you run the program. And we'll talk a little bit about that. It could take 55, 60 hours, maybe a little bit more if you want to add in some very basic hands-on. The e-learning course is really designed, again, for entry level, people who are just learning about the industry. There's not going to be a lot of hands-on in the sense that students are going to be repairing equipment at that point. It's more of, basic hand tools, how to change engine oil, identifying parts of a forklift, things like that. Once they get through the 55-hour online course, however long that takes in actuality, they will sit for an assessment, a proctored assessment. All of our MSSC's assessments are considered high stakes, and they do have to be proctored, meaning that someone has to be in the room, make sure there's no cheating, because from that point on, when an individual passes that test, they then move into level 2, which is the hands-on training, which can be delivered at a dealership, a school, another training facility. And this is more significant in the fact that this can take 60 to 90 days, give or take, on either end. For instance, it can be part of the onboarding process of a new hire that comes out of someone who may come out of the 55-hour course, maybe then hired into your dealership, and they go through their onboarding. And as part of that, they can learn and earn their CFT certification as part of the onboarding process. That's just an example of what happens. But essentially, an authorized instructor, whether that's at a school or the dealership that is doing the hands-on training, they will train the individual on specific skill sets within each one of those areas that we showed earlier in the presentation. And that person, the student, is visually assessed by the instructor who has been authorized by MSSC to say, okay, you successfully completed that task, and I'm confident that you can do that. Once they've completed, and I think this checklist is about 4 or 5 pages long. It takes a while to go through the training. But once they complete all of those skill items, they are considered fully CFT certified. So it could take, and in terms of the length that it could take someone, an example could be a student could take the 55-hour course at a local school, whether that's in secondary or post-secondary, and then in one semester, and then they could pass their test and then either move into the dealership or be taught the skills with the school. And we'll talk about some different scenarios here at the end, but those are just some examples. But again, it's level 1 is delivered online by an instructor. Student passes their test, and then they must pass their test to move into the hands-on portion. And then that hands-on portion, depending on the skill level, could take about 60 to 90 days. And that is a visual assessment of hands-on skills that are performed.
And Lisa, we did have a question. They're wondering, can I preview the CFT 55-hour curriculum? Is there any way to look at what is involved in that, or what they see before they purchase it?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. We have demos of the LMS and the course. So we can, for any of you that are interested in demoing that online curriculum, that level 1, we can set up a demo account for you, and you can take a look at that. You have access to that from the time we set it up. You have about 2 weeks to just get through. It doesn't go through every single portion of it, but it gives you a really good idea of what is covered, what it looks like, what are some of the simulations within the course content that's online. So yes, absolutely, we can do that. Great question.
So this next slide is really for you to see visually what schools and what dealerships right now are using the CFT. And Lisa touched on it already. There are different scenarios and different ways to use the certification, really depending on your goal. When we first envisioned the CFT, we envisioned it of dealerships, working together with other dealerships in the local area, bringing it to a school offering the certification, and then those dealerships recruiting from any of the students who were in the classes. And that is a great scenario, but it's also really evolved. So now we've noticed even dealerships themselves are using the CFT in-house. We mentioned COVID kind of halted us, but it actually gave us an opportunity to realize there are different scenarios that the CFT works really well with. Kind of going back to the dealership side, a lot of dealerships already have sophisticated training departments, and a lot of that training can be on specific forklifts, a specific Hyster-Yale forklift or a Toyota forklift, or maybe it's brand specific type training. So our hope and goal with the CFT is to eliminate some of that entry level training and really using the assessments, using the 55 hours of curriculum, using the hands-on assessments, being able to pinpoint where one technician might need a little bit more help on this skill area, another technician might need more help on this skill area. So we have in-house trainers. How possible and easy is it to get our trainers to be MSSC certified and trained to use this program? Lisa, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take that. So there are a couple of steps, a few steps that you have to go through. These are pretty simple, actually. First, you need to become a registered center with MSSC. And what that means is you register, your company would register with MSSC. There is a one-time fee, it's $500 to become a center. And what that does is we get you set up, identify a site coordinator, your authorized instructors, who are those people going to be, and then train those individuals, both the site coordinators and the proctors, the test proctors, and then also your instructor. The instructors have a separate fee from that, but that includes kind of the whole getting set up as an MSSC center. You would set up as an MSSC center, which would then allow you to order the instructor training, get your instructor trained, and then also order assessments and the course materials for the students. So for instance, if your company, you say, we really would like to do this, in-house, and we'd like to get this started. I'm going to give you some examples that are real life examples of companies that we've worked with. They set themselves up, they registered with the MSSC to be a training site. They identified who their site coordinator would be, who would also be, that person can be your test proctor. And that individual has the ability to register students, register the instructor, order the courses and the assessments. They go through a webinar that teaches them all the nuts and bolts of, okay, well, here's how you do this. This is how you work with the, ordering with the, for the LMS, the learning management system for the instructor. So they get trained. And then once that person gets trained, we have those trainings every 2 weeks. Then they go ahead and register who they would like to be that company's instructor. You can have one instructor, you can have two, you can have three. Really depends on how big your training department is and how much you want to do with that. The instructor then, they have a self-paced program where they have to go through the CFT online course material. They don't necessarily have to take 55 hours to do it, but they do have to review the learning management system and they have to review the course material. From that point, they sit for the assessment as well, because we require all of our instructors who are teaching our material to be certified themselves. So they have to sit for the assessment, and then they would have someone else, once they pass that online 55-hour course assessment, then they have someone else designated from the training department assess them visually and verify that, yes, they can do all of the hands-on skills that are required as part of getting that level 2 and full CFT certification. Now, if you only want to do part of that, you can, but we've had the instructors go through the entire thing so they could run the entire training at their dealership. From that point on, the instructor, once they get certified, you can start registering. Well, you can start registering students and downloading the course, the 55-hour course material for your technicians as soon as that instructor has been certified in the 55-hour course. we've had a couple companies with that particular scenario. We have had a couple companies say, you know, we're going to go ahead and test all of our technicians first. And it's not in any way, shape, or form a negative thing. They want to look and see before they put them into the training. They'd like to see where they can pinpoint some of the training to save a little bit of time, but also for those technicians, even if they pass, if there's an area they feel like they can get them up to speed and upskill them, they want to do that. And they want to do this for the benefit of the technician. They want to do it for the benefit of their productivity, and really kind of save on some of that additional training. So that's what people are doing with their current workforce. But that's kind of a long answer, but I wanted to be thorough.
Yeah, well, it's helpful to understand too, the different ways somebody's using it. I mean, we envisioned it to be almost only through the school, and now we're noticing a lot of dealerships find it valuable to use in-house. We had another question. This is a little bit more on the school side though. So how do you recommend approaching a school? Let's say, you know, I'm a dealership asking, how would I go about approaching a school in hopes of them offering the CFT?
Okay. All right. Do you want me to take that one too? I'll try not to be as
No, you're great. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things, as I mentioned, MSSC has a couple thousand assessment centers across the country. You know, more in some areas than others. But what we would do is, for instance, if you're a dealership, you're a member of MHEDA, you could reach out to MHEDA. And we would get together and say, hey, you know, we're really interested. We want to do this in-house, but we're also interested in working with a local school. What we would do is work together to identify the assessment centers that are already in the area. Now, I'm going to be very honest and transparent here. Those particular centers probably are not offering the CFT just yet. They're probably offering our production technician, our logistics technician program, maybe our supply chain program. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be interested in doing that. But we would approach them and say, hey, we've got some employers in the area that would really be interested in working with the school to deliver some or all of the CFT program. We would start those discussions to see where we are, how we would collaborate, all partnership in that. I think the most important thing to look at from that particular perspective is, and I think Katie mentioned this earlier, is that we're really looking at this from an industry-wide perspective. If there are other dealerships in your area, it would be very helpful if all of you came together collectively to say, hey, we're going to have this many technicians. Every year, we're going to need anywhere from 8 to 15 technicians. I'm just throwing a number out there for a particular region. The schools will be very open to having those conversations because they know that they have the demand is there. We know the demand is there, but it's communicating that demand effectively to the schools and then working with them. And it would be much easier if they're already an MSSC center, but even if they are not, we could reach out to them on behalf of the collaboration and get those conversations started.
That's a great point. Just looking at the map here, like Waukesha was one of our pilot schools that worked with us on the CFT, and they weren't an MSSC center to begin with. But the reason that they were able to go forward with the CFT is because the dealership in that area was constantly recruiting from not their forklift technician department because it didn't exist yet, but looking at their hydraulics department. They had an industrial maintenance college, a diesel school, automotive. So if you're already recruiting in different areas of the college, let's say the college doesn't have a forklift technician career pathway, you know, it's very new for colleges to have that. But if you're already showing good faith of recruiting students from that area and then they're staying at your dealership, that shows that a school would be more interested to work with you. So to Lisa's point, MSSC centers are in some ways low-hanging fruit. They're already aware of MSSC certifications. That's a great route to start. But if you work with a school in your area and you're already recruiting from that school, that's another good area to focus as well.
Yeah. And let's not forget our secondary programs as well. You know, not every high school offers maintenance or repair programs. But for those that do, this might be, particularly with that 55-hour course, that could be a year-long course in a senior year embedded into those programs. I know I'm located in Louisville, Kentucky for MSSC, but I know that some of our high schools here have been very interested. They run our production or logistics program, but then they shoot it out to somebody else in their district and say, hey, I know you've got this automotive program over here, but I think this would be a really good opportunity for the students. And then also for the industry, because they can run the 55-hour course at the high school level and, just introduce those students to another career pathway.
Mhm. And one other thing to add here, so we've laid out really the main scenarios, but something that works really well on the dealership side is if you have like the title would almost be like a liaison between the dealership and the school, or somebody who's a part of their responsibility is to be connecting with school, is to engage with schools, is to keep them in the loop of, hey, we need this many technicians, going to career fairs. We've had some dealerships bring their service van completely full of their tools for students to get kind of a snapshot of what they will potentially be working in. But really having that person in your dealership to work with the school is super important, because a lot of times we've noticed that person already wears a lot of hats, and then they've been now given the MSSC CFT college hat as well. And you almost need someone dedicated, or at least partly dedicated, to being that liaison between the college and the dealership. So that's an important area.
Yeah, and a lot of, particularly the community and technical colleges, regardless of what state you reside in, a lot of them have dedicated employer relations departments, either workforce solutions or employer solutions. They all have outreach particularly for trades, to the employer community. And so it's just finding out who that person is at the college, and more than likely they will want to be engaged with you as well.
Definitely. So, I mean, we've laid out some scenarios here, whether you're a dealership, whether you're a school, whether you're a dealership looking to do this in-house or to work with a school. Really, it's starting that conversation with whether it's, starting with Lisa and I, and just cluing in all those different parties so that we can kind of paint the picture together and understand how many technicians are needed, why this program might make sense. Kind of jumping into the next steps here already, but we have our contact information available, and also are going to answer any other questions that come through. But really starting the conversation, whether it's in your training department or with the school, once that happens, we can start piecing it together to help you get access to the CFT.
Yeah.
I
think we covered quite a bit. Do we have any other questions? I know we went through, that was a lot of information.
Yes.
Useful and informative for everyone to kind of take that next step and say, okay, well, how do we want to do this? And again, there's no right or wrong way. There are a lot of ways that you can do it. We laid out the full dealership, working with the school fully. You can have part of it in-house, do part of it, with the school. We're here to help you do that. The CFT really is, even though we launched it officially 4 years ago, we're really at the relaunch stage. And so this is really getting off the ground. And I really do think that once it starts to spread a little bit and we see different ways that people are implementing the program, you'll see the benefit of that. Hopefully the benefit to your industry is really building career awareness for these positions and the career pathways in forklift, and also just kind of raising the level foundationally, giving those opportunities for getting into higher, stepping into something a little bit different too. So.
And we did have one question come through asking about sharing this presentation, which we will share this presentation as well as we'll also share the Getting Started guide. So MSSC was able to put together really a step-by-step guide for you to become an MSSC center, or really if you're presenting this model to a school, it's all the steps that a school would take to become an MSSC center if they're not already. So we'll share those next steps with you, but please reach out to us and we can set up a call to talk a little further about your specific scenario. And we would look forward to doing so. But thank you all for your time today.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Thank you all for joining in. And again, if you have any questions, just reach out to us. Happy to help.